How's it going, everybody? Today we'll be doing my top 10 nonfiction books of all time. Now, this is a hard list to do because there's not really a set rubric. There's not, all fiction books are subjective, but nonfiction, especially because nonfiction is such a broad category, there's no set rubric. And I'm learning as I'm going, so bear with me. This book, How to Quantify these books are books that have had the most impact on me, the most impact on my life. That could be whether through knowledge gained, thought provokingness, providing me a new perspective that changes the way I live life or the way I view history or any subject like that. I think that's the way to best surmise how a nonfiction book can be the most impactful. And those, there's many different factors why those things can influence different people, but this is just my list. So number 10 is going to be Just Mercy. Just Mercy is, so to not be political, is a book that everyone should read if you are US based and want to have a deeper understanding on what racial racism institutionally wise means, and forget all of the different political aspects, just on what does institutional racism mean. This will be a good book for you no matter where you are on the political spectrum. And this book goes on to a lawyer who works on defending people who have been wrongly convicted, unjustly sentenced, or denied basic legal rights, especially those who have been poor or marginalized, especially Black Americans in the South. But the central narrative follows a man named Walter McMillan, a man who was wrongly sentenced to death in Alabama for a murder he did not commit. Brian Stevenson really goes into depth on how the justice system is corrupt, especially on the local level, and how these different things are all at play that kind of get into this space of institutional racism, and just how broken the legal judicial system is on many different levels. It's a really important book to read, I think, for everybody. And in some ways, I know it also provides a lot of hope. Like this person, how much time and effort they gave to something that they believed in, while highlighting an issue that is very important and highlighting it in a way that is mainly from a human form. So it's a really, really important book. I really recommend it. Really changed my perspective on many things. So yeah, that's number 10. 9 is Long Shot by Azad Khudi. So I work in Kurdistan and live in Kurdistan. I've been living here for a while. I'm from the US, but this book is one of the best books. So this follows a sniper that's part of a Kurdish militia group in northeast Syria. And he was a frontline sniper during the ISIS war. And this is I've read many different, maybe autobiography, not that many, but some autobiography books on war. And this is by far the most honest and, how do you say, like super honest, revealing, and vulnerable depiction of how war can affect an individual, especially through the eyes and through the ears and through these senses, and like a really deep introspective reflection on what is war doing to someone. And I know the area of this kind of military autobiography can be quite specific, but nevertheless, I think this book is very important and really transformative on how, this guy was hearing this guy's story and through this lens, and him really being so introspective about the details of war and how it's shaping him and what he believes and what he doesn't believe, and small details like being a sniper and fighting for something that he truly believes in. It's highly recommended, especially if you're interested in the Middle East or Kurdistan. It was definitely a transformative book for me, one of my favorite books on Kurdistan ever. Number 8 might surprise some people, is actually going to be Tribe by Sebastian Junger. And this book is actually really short, and I love when there's a book that's short that can provide a lot of transformative information. And his whole, you know, the whole arc or aim of this book is that modern society has lost its sense of belonging, purpose, and mutual dependence, and the very things that kind of once held human tribes together. And he's using war, anthropology, psychology, and he shows that how humans can really thrive when they're super interconnected. And yeah, it's a really actually Sebastian Junger also wrote War, which I also thought about putting on this list, but I ultimately went with Tribe. And this sense of belonging, and what he looks at it through a psychological lens and anthropological lens and the lenses of war, and very, very transformative. And it's, again, a short book, and I think it can really reconnect you to what matters and why certain things matter to us as humans. So yeah, I think it's a great book, and it's a short read. Number 7 is going to be Being Mortal by Atul Gawande. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. This book, I will say, completely transformed what I believe is correct in terms of end-of-life healthcare. His whole purpose of this book about how modern medicine excels at prolonging life, but fails to provide quality of life. And he really goes into a shift of this mindset of fixing and helping people according to their values, even as they approach death. And we focus too much on treatment, survival, and as opposed to quality of life. And actually how focusing on quality of life can actually prolong life. In this sense, just like with like nursery homes and people in severe pain and just purpose, and it's an extremely transformative book. If any of these things sound interesting to you, like, this is a must read, and it forever changed the way I look at quality of life and prolonging of life. And this really transformed the way that I look at end of life healthcare. So that's number 7. Number 6 is actually going to be How Democracies Die. The author's last names being Levitsky and Ziblatt. The main argument of this book, again, quite a short book, but how actually democracies today or rarely suffer from, rarely end through violent coups, but they actually are when elected leaders undermine democratic norms, weaken institutions, tilt the playing field into their favor, and to the point where genuine competition disappears, and these things kind of eroding democracy eventually get to the point that democracies collapse. And it goes more in depth than that, and it really changed my mind, I think, and was very transformative to me on how democracies actually function, and also kind of less getting into the mindset of I need better leaders, but I need better institutions and better legislative. Institutions matter, and how institutions matter, and how these norms matter, because if we erode these norms, then it erodes democracy. And so not being to accept the degradation of these norms, because eventually these kinds of things harm all of us. So I'm really good book, I think, for anybody interested in, especially in this current political era. Number 5 actually is going to be King Leopold's Ghost by Adam Hochschild, not really sure. This is a historical book on how King Leopold II of Belgium committed the largest genocide, one of the largest genocides in history, even larger than World War II, in Congo. And basically how he had this facade of civilizing Africa, as like all of these colonial empires did, and built a extremely brutal empire that killed millions of Congolese people. And something that I had very little knowledge about, and this history's kind of been whitewashed, and Belgium really hasn't, from as far as I know, really taken any responsibility for it, and so it's a very shocking narrative, and really kind of opened my eyes to some of these perspectives I have might be too focused on certain areas. So yeah, it's a book, like, I mean, over 20-30 million people killed. It's insane. So highly suggest, very important to read. Number 4 is actually going to be Sixth Extinction by Elizabeth Kolbert. Very, very important book if you're interested in climate or Earth as a whole, or science. This is the best book I've read. So her whole argument in this book is that we on Earth are currently experiencing our 6th extinction, and it's not caused by like an asteroid or volcanic eruption, but by humans, and that through and she really goes into depth, and she goes into the history of like mass extinctions, and how humans are driving this human extinction specifically. She goes into habitat destruction, climate change, invasive species, overexploitation, pollution, and chemicals. She goes into ocean acidification, and many different other things. So if you really want a understanding of why the climate is changing and why this is very dangerous for humanity and for the earth, this is the must read for this subject, because there's a lot of false information, incomplete information out there, or articles are out there just to make points for your ideas or political ideology, not for factual science. And this is a must read so that you can be very well informed if you want to talk about what is happening scientifically and why the earth is getting warmer, or why these kinds of things are happening. So it's a very, very important book. No matter where your belief on this is, your understanding of what is happening will significantly increase. So in this sense, this was very, very transformative. Number 3 is going to be a book called Mistakes Were Made. And this book is really, really going to challenge you, really going to make you reflect deeply into why you say the things you do and why you believe the things that you do. And the main premise of this book is to explain why ordinary, intelligent people justify bad decisions, cling to false beliefs, and defend harmful actions. And it's all because of a powerful psychological force called cognitive dissonance. And kind of going to when our behavior conflicts with our belief, like why do we say I'm a good person versus I hurt someone, and how this discomfort or this tension can make our brain reshape reality to protect our identity, and that these justification of bad decisions actually is a survival mechanism. And once you really get into that, you'll really say, okay, your first response in your brain when you're being challenged or you do a mistake or anything like this will always be, you'll be this self-justification, and it will completely transform how you are thinking. So, and that's why it's number 3. I mean, it really challenged me, and it's a must read, honestly, for anybody. Number 2 is going to be A River in Darkness. This is Mahaji Ishikawa's memoir about his harrowing life in North Korea, where he spent over 30 years in oppression, famine, political discrimination, imprisonment, torture. And this is a 200-page book, a little bit more, and honestly, like, I don't know how to put words to this, but just the brutal, inhumane conditions that this person lived through his life, and what he had to suffer and what he had to see. And we are like the things that we complain about in life, like compared to this person. But like in this sense, it's a book everyone should understand, to understand what humans can be going through around this world, and like what our place is in this world, just based on what people are experiencing now. So that's why A River of Darkness is a number 2. I don't really, it's I don't really want to say more. I think you should just go and read it. Number one is Gun, Germs, and Steel by Jared Diamond, the most important nonfiction book I've ever read in my life. This is a must read for anyone's basic understanding. If you want to understand why things are the way they are around the world, this book is a must read. Kind of like the question about why did some societies develop advanced technology, political power, and military strength either than others and use them to conquer? Why did, when the Spanish and the other European empires land on North America, and why did they get the diseases and not the Native Americans or the natives or the indigenous folks? Why certain places develop technology faster than others? Diamond, his whole argument is that the answer is not about intelligence, genetics, or inherent superiority, but about geography, environment, and available resources. And he goes very in depth into these things. For example, something like about indigenous folks, people getting diseases or being more susceptible to diseases, it really goes back to agriculture and why certain places develop immunity to certain diseases based on agriculture. Like these kinds of things that really will enhance your basic foundation of knowledge, that will provide a mass amount of supplemental analysis and understanding of the world, and really shift away you from this we're better or we're not better, like these kinds of frameworks that are entirely untrue. And even if you think you are on that spectrum, you might not have that information to truly understand that. So I think that's why this book is so important, and his research and the way he explains all these things. I mean, honestly, you should. I need to read this 5 more times to get, because there's such a wealth of information in here, and it's super transformative. And again, that basic foundation, it's massively important. So yeah, Gun, Germs, and Steel, number 1 book. So let me know what you think in the comments. You know, I really want to read more books like these. So maybe to expand the list or make a new list. So let me know what you think in the comments.